we now have time to open it up for questions. So I'd invite our speakers to come back up, and Ned's just going to run out and get a drink. And if you want to come up and sit at the table, we can just open it up to questions.
Standing's good.
Sure.
Stand close to each other so I get you.
Yeah.
With the camera. Okay.
And then if folks feel like we need to have a pass around a microphone to help with the audio,
Do you need it for your recorder?
probably not. No. And the acoustics in here are pretty good. So.
I was wondering, you had one slide where you showed the air modeling distribution and the manganese.
Oh yeah.
Is that similar to like PM, or is there anything unique about manganese and how it distributes, or is this like any other contaminant in the air as far as the modeling?
That's a good question. So I'm diving into that right now in my head. Is it different from, let's say, lead? Probably not. So in the air dispersion model, you can choose things like topography. You have to look at where the weather stations are. Of course, the topography, where things lie. And then you add the stack height. You actually add the stack height for the industry, how tall they are. That really makes a difference. And then you include the amount that they've emitted. So I don't know that the model accounts for specific differences in those chemicals, but I would assume most metals would behave similarly. Gases would be a different question. They may vaporize and go farther.
So I'll take that. I'll expand on that same question. So what is happening in East Liverpool with those high levels? Is that from aerosolized dust, or is that from smoke that comes up from some processing device?
So East Liverpool, like I showed the photograph, I did not know it existed because it was not on the toxic release inventory database. If you're familiar with TRI, it's an online public system. It's a self-reported industry system if they have an emission source. SH Bell, that facility, does not have an emission source. There's no stack. So it is most likely wind dispersion.
So it's just piles of manganese or manganese-rich ore, and the wind comes through, picks it up, spreads it around.
That's my understanding. Yes, when I see there's a photograph of the piles of manganese. Now they may be covering it now and moving it more under a shelter, and that would be great. It could also be coming from the trucks in and out. So how it's being dispersed, but there's natural factors such as wind blowing it across. That's my understanding.
For data collection with regards to prevailing winds, meaning that is it based on seasonal changes from the northwest in the winter, from the southwest in the summer?
Yes, it
And
takes.
has there been any core sampling? The plant was there for, you said, over 100 years.
Right.
That with core sampling, perhaps even a core sample from the bottom of the river based on the prevailing winds going to the west.
That's great. Yes, great question. So in Marietta, it's actually been about 60 or so years that it's been running. It's the longest running one, refinery where they smelt the manganese. And I believe a scientist, and I'm sorry I don't know her name, here from Pittsburgh, did core sampling in Marietta. Penn State, maybe it was Penn State.
Was it upwind, downwind,
Yes, it
your
was.
facility? I mean, how far from the
She,
facility?
I believe, with her student, went all around the community and did map their data, and it did match. What we did, we looked at we had a biology instructor in Marietta, a teacher there, who's actually the chair of the department, David Brown, and he went around and collected the lichens off of the trees. Very cool. He did a grid and mapped and then collected lichen off the tree, and then we analyzed it for manganese. So that's another interesting way to monitor exposure. But it goes along with the prevailing wind, where you'd expect it.
Well, I'm just kind of curious as to where all these monitoring stations, where all these data points, where all this collection is being taken, because it will skew the data.
You're
You're out to the west.
Absolutely
You're not
right.
getting data. You're going to the east to get air sample of Parkersburg, West Virginia, for
Right.
example, which is farther downwind, so to speak.
You are absolutely correct. Where you place the monitor is a key piece. And how long you run the monitor. A year. I mean, each sample is money. So,
Also, production cycles of the plant.
Yeah.
I mean, there's slow grind,
Absolutely.
et cetera, I mean, there's a whole lot
That's
of
right.
factors that you have to consider, right?
that's right. We looked, and on that air mod, you can go down to daily exposure. But that didn't, but when we looked at the personal air sampling, so I was really amazed. Usually, okay, it's an EPA product. They've made it, maybe it's not, it's a model, it's an estimate, maybe it's not going to work. Where I was thinking, I'm not going to trust it right away, let's test it out. So we paired it and we looked at the model versus our personal air monitoring on the kits, where we had them wear a badge, like an occupational setting. It pumped the air through for 48 hours, 2 days worth of data. We paired that with what we modeled, it matched. It was beautiful. Whoa, it worked. It did work. We also paired it with our stationary sampling device, and it worked again. It didn't work as good if you got down to the day, hourly, but when you can model it for the month, much better. It's also fine for a year if you go a full annual. So, Ted's data, your data,
Well, that's
was
what's
like
gonna-
daily. You had
So same thing. And I was going to point that out. This is 1 in 3 PM10 filter sample
Yeah.
results for 8 years. So, yeah, 1 in 3 days, it literally, but that has nothing to do with what they were talking about. Correlate with M&T produces based on market demand. It doesn't work 9 to 5
I
Monday.
also know this
So.
area is a relatively flat area there in Ohio.
And so, yeah, but again, some of the zeros next to 200 spikes. But it's also PM10 if you get a rain. So if it rains, you're gonna get washout in the atmosphere. So there's a whole host of confound. Yeah, when you're doing it. But that's one of the we're talking about making sure the data is both knowing the limits, but then increasing the data points are getting more.
Yeah, 'cause, when I wake up in the morning, I can smell like your Thompson, and we're right here, in Squirrel North. And, it sits in the valley.
Yeah.
The winds pick up in the morning, and it just blows it right up the valley.
And if you look at the hourly monitoring online at ACHEs, you'll see most evenings are the worst. Yeah.
Higher concentration, obviously, until the winds pick up. Inversions,
Yeah.
And then when the winds pick up, it's obviously dispersed.
Yeah, but these are, knowing these are 24 hours, so they set it up midnight to midnight every third day and measure the filter. So it's a daily. You can't get an hourly from that type of data.
These are great questions. Okay, you had one, you want to do you?
I was wondering, did you do any kind of intervention, like, let's say you identified a kid that had a really high level, did you tell the family, or did you
Yeah, that's
say?
So, there's no known safe level in the body. So we don't know. Let's say a kid did have a high concentration. Maybe that's for them a good level. So in kids across the U.S., it actually ranges from 4 to 14. That's a huge range in the body. I wish it was more like lead. I don't, but I wish it was more like lead in the way that we know what number means health. We know what decimal to the decimal point, what it can have an impact on. Manganese, we don't know. But did we tell the families? Yes. We wrote letters. We gave everybody back their individual biological data. So we wrote them a letter for manganese, the cadmium that we measured, arsenic, if it was detected, lead and manganese. The only one that has an action level is lead. So if the lead level was higher than it should be, we also told them that they should go back to their physician and seek additional help there. And then we also had our doc call them to make sure that they did respond to that. That was more urgent. For manganese, we gave recommendations, but no intervention. So that is a great question, and where I'd love to go in the future to think about an intervention. So maybe I should use you as an intervention group. Like, what would be an intervention? We can't ask people to move for a year. We could, air filters. I've just been brainstorming, like, okay, what could be an intervention? A dietary intervention, you know, think of good things while you're sitting here. Love to hear them.
I'm glad you mentioned the word filters. Both of you have used that word. When we move from our front porch into our house, it's a potentially different air quality. What, if anything, do you know about the degree to which and the quality of air filtration systems in on our devices in our homes? And should we be concerned about that? And does it make a difference? Number one. Number two, each one of us is a filtration system. We filter as we breathe. And one of the things I have thought of, which sounds a bit crazy, but who, if anyone, is working on a filtration system for our bodies, mechanical filtration system, that could take some of these particulate matters out and be periodically disposable?
Well, people wear masks, but that's not, you're talking more internal.
Yeah.
But people, I know in Asia, many times they wear, you see pictures of people living in China where the air pollution is quite significantly worse than here, and they wear masks. Now, I just saw a study, do the masks work? That was the question. And are they actually, it's only if they are wearing it properly, it's very tight around the face, and many masks, it really depends on the material that they're made of, because some of the particles, very small size, can get through anyway. So you really have to have an upgraded mask, one that the particles don't go through. And then you can't breathe very well. So,
And what about the home filtration system?
the internal filter, the home. That's a great question. I know of one study that looked at HEPA filters versus no HEPA filter, and a HEPA filter worked great. It was the HEPA filter rather than a regular air purifier. If they had the HEPA filter, it did decrease chemicals in the air. Have we used it for manganese yet? No. That could be a great intervention.
Is that down to the small particulate matter?
I think it does, but it also depends on how often you change that filter. So if it's regularly maintained, I believe it would. I don't know about ultrafine. I haven't looked at that, but PM 2.5, yes. Ultrafine, I have to ask that.
I could
Look at
address that.
Would you? Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I know that.
there's actually from a site called Raucous, Reducing Outdoor Contamination in Indoor Spaces, RCIS.
Great.
Linda Wigington heads that up, and a number of us have participated in
great.
that. But they've looked at indoor pollution and the effect of how much outdoor pollution comes in. There's a whole lot of variables, but some of the takeaways from the studies they've done thus far is that the HEPA filtration is a lot more effective than standard filtration. But that, like if it's in your furnace, the furnace has to be running. So one of the interventions they've been doing in homes where they found levels of pollution are the newer furnaces that have variable speed blowers. They can run at a low speed without using too much energy and keep air flowing through the system, and hence more effective filtration of the whole home. In a regular home, your filter is only working if your furnace or AC is running, because otherwise there's no air going through it. So the HEPA filters, looking at continuous ventilation, and also things like home air sealing to keep pollutants from outside coming in, and point source reduction in the home, which basically boils down to having good range hood and good bathroom exhaust fan and using them so that the main source of pollution in the home are exhausted. And also things like carbon monoxide, having your furnace and water tank venting properly. A lot of homes, they don't vent properly, so there's a lot of things like that that can be done. But in terms of like heavy metals or anything coming from outside, I know some of the better filters do get down into the small micro level filtration. So that might be a possible intervention.
That would be excellent.
You mentioned slag, its manganese levels. Do we know what the level is? Is it a very small? Obviously, it's not as much as the big piles in East Liverpool. But do we know what the slag manganese
I
content is?
saw a couple papers that had percentages from 3 to 12. I don't know exact numbers. I mean, it's designed to be a waste product. But how much, I think it'll have so much to do with what the initial chemistry was. So I couldn't actually make a guess other than more than what ends up in the steel, and that it's there, but how much it contributes, that would go into the metallurgy expertise that I don't have.
You first. Somebody shout.
I have a billion questions, but
Dang.
All right, start with
I'm kind of
10,000.
dumb and I didn't understand
Number
most of
50.
that. So,
What's number 50?
I guess my first question, and that's kind of like, so what are the real differences? Like, to what scale are you seeing? You mentioned IQ differences, for instance. Like, how significant are the differences between the lower end of that spectrum and
So in other words, what kind of is this a really big deal or not? Like,
Yes.
should we really be concerned about? So the IQ, if you notice the actual numbers, these are smart kids. They probably perform really well in school. Anything below an 80, we did not have anything below an 80. They were all great star kids. But what we're seeing we're trying to investigate what are the subtle differences or what's the subtle impact of this metal. We're not going to see the overt doctor diagnosed issues. It's not, I can say it's not as bad as lead. Lead it's way worse in terms of exposure, but there is an effect.
And then my second question is for, yes, Nancy, thank you, sorry. So Lawrenceville United, we have,
Got it.
as Ned pointed out, sixth highest polluter of manganese in our neighborhood. One of the things as part of that operating permit that we've asked for is for the health department to actually study the neighborhood so that we can understand the health impacts that the foundry is having on the neighborhood, so everybody can feel better about it. But given the work that you're doing around this, is there going to be any local studies of children in your neighborhood?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Do the title, Tom Hanks. Good one.
You want to? It would be great. I do we do research
Right.
together. So
Right.
if and I go to community meetings, and I've worked with now Marietta and East Liverpool, now Southeast Side Chicago, and I'm not an investigator who just like, oh, there's manganese, I'll just run in and do something. It's all right. These are people. Let's talk about it, and if you want to do a study, or who are your local partners to also get involved, keeping it very collaborative and open. But it would be fun. No plans, but it would be, it's always, I love research, and then you find the dollars. You find the money to do that, and that would be on us to do. I know GAS has paid things out of their budget to collect samples, and I think that's fantastic. That's just amazing. But the power, NIH, National Institute of Health, is a tax dollar. So I like to put that to work for you, the people who are concerned about exposure. There's billions of dollars being used on, and all good things for cancer research, wonderful for, eye diseases, you name it. But let's give some for the environment and concern about potential exposures. So I love bringing those monies to the community and putting it to work for you.
I appreciate that, how you frame the study. We're obviously a community organization and we love the work. So, thank you.
Awesome. Reach out. You have my email.
This is really similar. I was going to ask if I wanted to look and see studies that have been done of communities on different pollutants, like for example, Clareton, right down the river, is there a clearinghouse or a place where you can go to look? Would it be like the NIH website or something like that?
So anything published, any published literature, you can find. Google Scholar has access. Honestly, Google Scholar is a very good source. There's something called PubMed, and that's another more academic source for literature. If you want to see what's currently funded by NIEHS or NIH in general, you can go, they have this website called NIH Reporter. And you can type in the keyword, a topic, or a university, what's this university doing, and then all their grants will pop up. Maybe you're just interested in a particular element or a name, but if you look at keywords, maybe in the abstract and think they may have named the town in it. It doesn't do historic grants, it does current funding. But that's one way to find out too, NIH Reporter.
You can also go to the Brief Project's website. They have a pretty extensive list of papers, research that's much more localized. And I know a couple of years ago they did, the Heinz Endowments did a kind of a white paper looking at any type of research that's been done, looking at Pittsburgh or southwestern Pennsylvania air quality and health. So you might find some things there as well.
But take note, you'll eventually find an article that'll ask you for $50 to see it.
Oh yeah.
That's
So then,
the only downside of
Yeah.
those services, that you have to generally, I'll
Yeah.
let you come. But it's nice to be an academic, which we
That's
aren't.
right. If you
so.
ask for an academic, hey, do you mind getting this paper for me? I'll mail it to you. I can get the PDF quite quickly. Well, actually, I'll have my student get a PDF quite quickly, or I'll already have it and send it your way. Because I do not like that science has a barrier for the public. So anytime I get asked, yeah, send it right off. So maybe you could make a list and then give them a couple days to get it. Happy to do that. I'll use my academic privilege for you.
Other questions?
You're looking at a population that has been exposed to a lot more
Yes.
and other
Good point.
metals. You've mentioned cadmium,
Lead, arsenic, yes.
lead, and also tobacco.
Right.
How do you know that any differences that you see
Great question.
are due to manganese?
Excellent. So, and we include those other metals because that's exactly what we want to know. We want to know that what we're finding isn't just because of the one thing that we looked at. Maybe they're all connected. You know, maybe the first thing we do is we look to see if they're correlated. What's the relationship between those exposures? Like, if the manganese high, is the lead high at the same time? So you know they go together. But they weren't. The metals were not correlated, nor was the tobacco. So they're all independent of each other, which is a good thing. That's step one. Then, when it comes to the biostatistics, the statistics is the key part. You start adding one metal in. You actually can put them all in, and then you see what's significantly associated. So it comes down to a p-value, 0.05. What's significant in the model? And then you can start taking things out of the model and see what's the real driver of the association that you see. So I could bring my statistician back, but that's a simplified version of it. But we can see what is the real driver. Manganese, for instance, when we looked at, like just recently, school achievement, our goal was to see what's manganese influence on child performance in school based on their standardized test scores. We had all those other things in the modeling. The only one, manganese wasn't showing a lot of significance, but cotinine was right there. It was the one that was shining. If we had an MRI image of our data, the tobacco smoke would have been the bright spot. So it's all in the statistics. But we're able to do that. Well, Nancy keeps shouting out the experts, but that would be my biostatistician, Heidi Sukaru at Children's Hospital. If you're a scientist, like I do EPI, so I look at the public and the population. Your BFF is your biostatistician because you can't do anything without them. So Heidi's my BFF. my biostatistician best friend for life, I call her. Something like that. Did you want to have another question?
Well, it was kind of really, I was just wondering if you ever looked at mercury, because sometimes you meet people who do a lot of fishing and a lot of their own catch, and I'm always saying, well, have you ever heard of these charts of like how much fish you're supposed to eat because of mercury? And do those people look at mercury?
I'm trying to think if we measured mercury, and that might have just been, we also collected a urine sample, and I think that all the levels were below the detection limit of the instrument. So mercury was not a factor. Cadmium was not a major issue either in our study, nor was arsenic. The levels were very, very low in the body. That was a good thing. So good, but manganese is there, so it became the most interesting. And we are, as the Commission, we're measuring it in toenails. We don't have that data to share all the way yet, but toenails and hair. Saliva is a new measure. People are having kids spit or adults spit in a cup and then measuring the manganese in saliva samples.